In this video, I'm going to discuss both the metric system of measurement and the U.S. customary system of measurement, and how we can convert between units in these systems. I'll start by talking about the metric system. To measure length, volume, and mass, we can use the base units of meters, liters, and grams, and then put one of the prefixes you see on the screen in front of these units. To perform most conversions in the metric system, all we need to do is move the decimal point. Each of the prefixes shown here represents one place that we need to move the decimal point. To illustrate this, I'm going to start by converting 5.3 centimeters to an equivalent number of meters. Since my question here gives me a number of centimeters, and since the question wants me to convert this to the base unit of meters, I'll note that I want to start with a unit that has a prefix of centi and convert it to its corresponding base unit, as shown by the arrows on the screen. Each of these arrows represents one place that I need to move the decimal point. That means that I need to move the decimal point in the 5.3 two places to the left. Note that I move the decimal point in the same direction that the arrows on the screen show. Also note that I do need the 0 between the decimal point and the 5 because if I leave the 0 off and write 0.53 instead, then I have only moved the decimal point one place. I can now say that 5.3 centimeters is equivalent to 0.053 meters. For my next example, I'm going to convert 24 kilograms to an equivalent number of decigrams. As shown by the arrows on the screen, I want to start with a unit that has a prefix of kilo and convert it to its corresponding unit that has a prefix of deci. This means that I need to move the decimal point in the 24 four places to the right. Like I said in the last example, note that I moved the decimal point in the same direction that the arrows on the screen show. Since the decimal point was not stated in the 24, I can assume that it starts after the 4. Of course, I do need the zeros in gray in my answer because if I leave these zeros off, then I have not actually moved the decimal point at all. This tells me that 24 kilograms is equal to 240,000 decigrams. In most of the remainder of this lesson, I'm going to talk about what we often call the U.S. or customary system of measurement. I suggest that you either print my notes or copy these conversion factors down and have them in front of you while you watch the remainder of this video. To perform conversions between customary units and to convert between customary units and metric units, you can use a process called dimensional analysis. If you have taken chemistry or physics, this process should look familiar to you. To introduce you to this process, I'm going to convert 168 fluid ounces to an equivalent number of quarts. The first step in this process is to write down the measurement I'm starting with, and then a multiplication sign followed by a fraction bar. In this case, that means I'll write down 168 fluid ounces, followed by a multiplication sign, and then a fraction bar. For the next step, I'll put the units I'm converting from on the bottom of the fraction. In this case, that's fluid ounces. In this problem, I want to convert the fluid ounces to an equivalent number of quarts. Since the list of conversions here gives me a conversion factor between fluid ounces and quarts, I'll put quarts on the top of the fraction. Next, I need to fill in the numbers so that the bottom of my fraction is equal to the top of my fraction. In this case, 1 quart is equal to 32 fluid ounces. When we make the bottom equal the top, we're just multiplying by 1. Since multiplication by 1 does not change the value of something, this should tell you that the multiplication by this ratio will not change the value of what we started with. Finally, I just need to confirm that the correct units cancel each other out and perform the indicated operations. In this case, we have fluid ounces on both the top and bottom of the fraction, so those can cancel each other out and leave us with the quarts that we wanted. To answer the question, you can multiply 168 times 1 over 32. This should tell you that 168 fluid ounces is equal to 5.25 quarts. For my next example, I'm going to convert 4 miles to an equivalent number of yards. I'll start by copying down the measurement I'm starting with, which, in this case, is 4 miles, and then writing a multiplication sign followed by a fraction bar. For my next step, I'll put the units that I'm converting from on the bottom of the fraction. In this case, that means I'll put miles on the bottom of this fraction. Next, I'll note that, because I wanted to convert the miles to yards, I would love to put yards on top of the fraction. However, I don't have a conversion factor on the screen here that lets me convert miles to yards. That means that I'll convert the miles to feet, and then convert the feet to yards. Therefore, I'm going to put feet on the top of this fraction. To fill in the numbers, I need to make sure that the bottom is equal to the top. In this case, I can say that 5,280 feet are equivalent to 1 mile. If I stop here, then my units of miles will cancel each other out and leave me with the units of feet. But, of course, the question said that I need to convert this to an equivalent number of yards. That means that I'll write another multiplication sign and fraction bar. To cancel out the unit of feet that are on the top of the fraction, I'll put feet on the bottom of the next fraction. Because I want to convert the feet to yards, and because I have a conversion factor on the screen here that lets me convert between feet and yards, I'll put yards on the top of this fraction. To fill in the numbers, I need to make sure that the bottom is equal to the top. In this case, 3 feet are equivalent to 1 yard. Finally, I need to confirm that the correct units cancel each other out and perform the indicated operations. In this case, the miles on the top cancel with the miles on the bottom, and the feet on the top cancel with the feet on the bottom. To find the answer to the question, I just need to type 4 times 5,280 divided by 1 times 1 divided by 3 in my calculator. This should tell you that 4 miles are equivalent to 7,040 yards. For my next example, I'm going to convert 22 cups to an equivalent number of milliliters. I'll start by writing down the 22 cups that I want to start with, and then a multiplication sign and a fraction bar. Since I want the cups to cancel out, I'll put cups on the bottom of my fraction. For my next step, I'll note that the question wants me to convert to milliliters, and that means I'd like to put milliliters on the top of this fraction. However, I don't have a conversion factor on the screen here that lets me convert between cups and milliliters. That means I'll convert the cups to liters, and then convert the liters to milliliters. With that in mind, I'll put liters on the top of this fraction. To fill in the numbers, I need to make the bottom equal the top. In this case, I can use the information on the screen here to say that 0.2366 liter is approximately equal to 1 cup. If I stop with the dimensional analysis and perform the operations you see here, I will have converted the cups to liters. If you want to, you can stop with the dimensional analysis and then use what we talked about at the beginning of this lesson to convert the liters to milliliters. However, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to write another multiplication sign followed by another fraction bar. Since I would like to cancel out the liters from the previous fraction, I'll put liters on the bottom of this fraction. Since I would like to convert this to milliliters, I'll put milliliters on the top of this fraction. To fill in the numbers, I need to make the bottom equal the top. I can use the concepts that I talked about at the beginning of this lesson to say that 1,000 milliliters are equivalent to 1 liter. If you prefer, you could use the fact that 1 milliliter is equivalent to 0.001 liter instead. You should still get the same answer in the end. Now I just need to confirm that the correct units cancel each other out and put this in my calculator. Since I have cups on both the top and bottom, they can cancel each other out. The liters that are on both the top and bottom can also cancel each other out. That means that the units I'll be left with are the milliliters that I wanted. To put this in my calculator, I can type 22 times 0.2366 over 1 times 1000 over 1. This tells me that 22 cups are approximately equal to 5,205.2 milliliters. Note that I said approximately because, as the information on the screen here says, 1 cup is only approximately equal to 0.2366 liter. For my next problem, let's suppose that you have calculated that your car uses, on average, 1 gallon of gasoline to travel 31 miles. I'm going to calculate the number of kilometers that you should be able to travel with 1 liter of gasoline. I'll start by noting that the fact that your car uses, on average, 1 gallon of gasoline to travel 31 miles means that I can say that you get 31 miles per gallon. That means that I can write the information given to me in the problem using the ratio 31 miles over 1 gallon. Since the first step in dimensional analysis says that I also need to write a multiplication sign and a fraction bar, I'll also write those symbols. I want to convert the miles given to me here to kilometers. Since the miles are on the top of the fraction, and since I want those to cancel out and go away, I'll put miles on the bottom of the second fraction. Because I want to convert the miles to kilometers, and because I have a conversion factor on the screen here that lets me convert between miles and kilometers, I'll put kilometers on the top of the second fraction. To fill in the numbers, I need to make the bottom equal the top. In this case, 1.609 kilometers is approximately equal to 1 mile. The wavy equal sign that you see in this conversion factor means that this is an approximation. Now I need to convert my gallons to liters. To cancel out the gallons that are on the bottom of the first fraction, I'll put gallons on the top of the third fraction. Because I want to convert the gallons to liters, I would love to put liters on the bottom of this fraction. However, I don't have a conversion factor on the screen here that lets me convert between gallons and liters. That means I'll convert the gallons to quarts and then convert the quarts to liters. With that in mind, I'll put quarts on the bottom of this fraction. I can fill in the numbers by making the numerator of this fraction equal the denominator. Because I now want to convert the quarts to liters, I'll write another multiplication sign followed by another fraction bar. Since I want to cancel out the quarts that are on the bottom of the third fraction, I'll put quarts on the top of the fourth fraction. Because I have a conversion factor that will let me convert between liters and quarts, I'll put liters on the bottom of this fraction. To fill in the numbers, I need to make the bottom equal the top. In this case, 1 quart is approximately equal to 0.9464 liter. To finish this problem, I need to confirm that the correct units cancel each other out and go away. The miles on top cancel with the miles on bottom, the gallons on the bottom cancel with the gallons on the top, and the quarts on the bottom cancel with the quarts on the top. This tells me that, after I perform the operations shown here, my units will be kilometers per liter. After you type this in your calculator, you should find that 31 miles per gallon is approximately equivalent to 13.2 kilometers per liter. Or, in other words, you can travel about 13.2 kilometers with 1 liter of gasoline. Note that this is an approximation because the numbers I used when I converted the miles to kilometers and when I converted the quarts to liters were approximations. If you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel and see all of our products available at algebraforhomeschool.com.